17-year-old Kemi had nothing except a heart full of kindness. One hot afternoon, she gave away her last coins to a stranger. But the stranger was a billionaire in disguise. Her small act sparked a project that would save 1 million lives. From street seller to national hero, one choice can change the world. Don't forget to like, share, and click on the subscribe button. The afternoon sun was hot over Mushin, Lagos. The air was filled with the smell of roasted corn, exhaust fumes from passing buses, and the noise of conductors shouting for passengers. "Yaba, yaba straight, enter with your change," one shouted as he slapped the side of a yellow bus. 17-year-old Kemi walked quickly along the busy road, a small nylon bag of sachet water and groundnuts hanging from her hand. Her uniform blouse was faded from many washings, and her sandals had been repaired with wire twice. She had just closed from school, but instead of going home to rest, she was heading toward the traffic jam near Ojuelegba Bridge, her usual selling spot. Life had not been easy since her parents died in a car accident when she was 9. She had moved in with her mother's younger sister, Auntie Bisi, who struggled to pay rent for their small one-room apartment. Kemi wanted to help, so every afternoon after school, she sold snacks and water to earn a little money. As she walked, she counted the coins in her pocket. "If I sell well today, maybe we can buy Gary for tomorrow," she thought. At the Ojuelegba bus stop, buses came and went, honking and swerving. People pushed past each other trying to enter quickly. Kemi began calling out softly, "Pure water!" "Groundnut," a few passengers bought from her. She smiled politely at each one, though the sun made sweat run down her face. Then she saw him. An old man with gray hair, bent shoulders, and a simple faded shirt was standing near a bus. He held a small nylon bag and was struggling to count some coins in his palm. The conductor stood beside him, looking impatient. "Oga, enter now! We no get time," the conductor said sharply. The old man looked worried. "Please, my money is not complete." The conductor hissed and began to wave him away. The other passengers were watching, some with pity, others with annoyance. Without thinking, Kemi stepped forward. "Please, sir," she said, pulling the small amount she had just made from her pocket. She pressed the coins into the old man's hand. "You can take it." The old man stared at her. "My daughter, this is your money." "It's okay," Kemi said quickly. "You need it more." The conductor took the fare and pushed the man inside. The old man turned once before entering, his eyes shining with gratitude. He opened his mouth to say something, but the bus drove off before he could speak. Kemi stood there for a moment, watching the bus disappear into the traffic. She felt lighter somehow, even though her pocket was now empty. That evening, she returned home with almost nothing. Auntie Bisi was waiting at the door. "Where is the money for today?" she asked, her arms folded. Kemi explained what happened. Her aunt sighed heavily and shook her head. "Kemi, we don't have enough as it is. You can't be giving away what we need to eat." "I know, Auntie," Kemi said quietly, "but I couldn't let him be stranded." Her aunt said nothing more, but her face remained worried. That night, Kemi went to bed hungry. Still, she whispered to herself, it was the right thing to do. She did not know that this small act of kindness was the first step toward changing millions of lives. The next morning, Lagos woke up early as usual. From the window of their small room, Kemi could already hear the voices of hawkers shouting, the rattling of iron pots, and the rumble of buses on the main road. She sat on the edge of the bed, putting on her worn school uniform. The smell of boiling pap filled the room. Auntie Bisi poured the hot pap into 2 small plastic cups, one for herself, one for Kemi. There was no milk, no sugar, only the plain taste. Kemi sipped quietly, her thoughts drifting to the old man from the day before. She wondered if he got home safely. She wished she had asked his name, but in that rush, it hadn't crossed her mind. "Eat quickly and go," her aunt said. "And today, please, no giving away our money again." Kemi nodded. "Yes, Auntie." After school that day, she returned to the road to sell again. Life carried on as it always did. Standing under the sun, calling out for customers, running between traffic. The buses came and went. People shouted, bargained, and hurried about their lives. Days turned into weeks. The old man became just a memory. Kemi's focus returned to surviving each day, avoiding rude conductors, counting coins, and trying to finish her homework before she fell asleep from tiredness. One Friday afternoon, the weather changed. Dark clouds gathered, and heavy rain began to pour without warning. People ran for shelter, and traders grabbed their goods. Kemi stood under a shop's small roof, holding her bag of sachet water. Her feet were soaked, and her stomach rumbled from hunger. When the rain slowed, she walked home. On the way, she passed by a large banner hanging near the market. It read, "Free Food Distribution Program, sponsored by Lawson Foundation, coming soon." She didn't pay much attention. Charity events happened now and then in Lagos, but she never imagined it had anything to do with her. That night, she studied under the dim light of a kerosene lamp. Her school's inter-house sports competition was coming up, but she didn't have the right shoes to run. She wasn't sure she could even afford to take part. Still, she dreamed about winning a medal. Saturday morning came with a surprise. A neighbor stopped by to tell Auntie Bissy about the upcoming food program at the community center. "They say the people behind it are very rich. They're giving rice, beans, and even cooking oil," the woman said. Kemi's aunt looked interested. "We'll go," she said. On the day of the program, Kemi decided to volunteer to help. She thought it would be nice to serve others, even if it meant they would get their food last. She joined other young people in arranging bags of food and water bottles on long tables. She noticed several black SUVs parked outside, with men in suits and sunglasses standing guard. Clearly, the organizers were important people. But Kemi didn't think much of it. She was too busy handing food to mothers carrying babies and to old women leaning on canes. Somewhere in the crowd, an old pair of eyes were watching her closely. Eyes that remembered her face from Ojuelegba bus stop. Kemi had no idea that her life was about to change forever. In a tall glass building overlooking the waters of Victoria Island, Tunde Lawson sat in his office, scrolling through emails on his laptop. He was the only child of Chief Adewale Lawson, a man whose name opened doors in business and politics all over Nigeria. The Lawson family owned companies in shipping, construction, and agriculture. But today, Tunde wasn't thinking about business. He was thinking about his father. Chief Lawson had been ill for months. He was still strong enough to work from home, but he had lost interest in many things. He no longer attended big parties or sat for hours in board meetings. He spent more time alone, reading, or taking quiet drives through the city in disguise, without his usual security team. Tunde didn't understand it. "Why does he insist on going out dressed like a poor man?" he had once asked the family's head of security. The man had shrugged. "Your father says it helps him see the real Lagos, not the Lagos that people show him because he's rich." Earlier that week, Chief Lawson had returned from one of those outings, looking different. Thoughtful, almost emotional. Over dinner, he had said something that stayed in Tunde's mind. "There are still good people in this city, Tunde. People who give even when they have little." When Tunde asked what he meant, his father only smiled and said, "One day you'll meet her." That Saturday, the Lawson Foundation's annual food distribution program took place in Mushin. It was one of the family's biggest charity projects, and Tunde attended as the face of the organization. Cameras clicked as he shook hands, posed for pictures, and handed food packs to smiling families. In the middle of the crowd, his father, dressed in a simple shirt and cap, moved quietly, greeting people without drawing too much attention. Suddenly, Chief Lawson stopped, his eyes fixed on a young volunteer arranging bottled water on a table. "That's her," he said softly to his personal assistant. The assistant followed his gaze. "The girl in the faded school uniform?" "Yes," Chief Lawson replied. "She's the one." The assistant didn't understand, but he knew better than to question further. He quickly took out his phone and began noting details: where the girl stood, who she spoke to, and where she went after the program. Meanwhile, Kemi was busy passing food packs to mothers with babies strapped to their backs. She didn't notice the man watching her from across the hall. She didn't see the assistant taking discreet photos. When the program ended, Kemi carried the leftover sachet water back to the storeroom. Her arms were tired, but she felt happy. Helping people like this made her forget her own problems for a while. Outside, Chief Lawson sat in the back of his SUV, watching the volunteers leave. When Kemi walked past carrying a heavy bag, he leaned forward. "Follow her," he told his driver. The driver started the engine, blending into the evening traffic. Kemi had no idea that the black SUV behind her was carrying the man whose life she had touched weeks ago, and that this quiet pursuit was the beginning of something far greater than she could imagine. The sun was already low in the sky when Kemi left the community center that evening. The streets of Mushin were alive with the usual evening chaos. Traders packing up their goods, buses honking, and children chasing each other barefoot. She balanced a bag of leftover sachet water on her head, walking quickly toward home. She didn't notice the sleek black SUV slowly following at a distance. Inside the car, Chief Lawson sat quietly in the back seat, watching her through the tinted glass. "She walks fast," the driver said. "Good," Chief Lawson replied. "It means she's used to working hard." When Kemi reached her street, she turned into a narrow alley lined with small, zinc-roofed houses. She disappeared into one of the doors. The SUV stopped a short distance away. "Get her full name and details," Chief Lawson told his personal assistant, "and do it quietly. I don't want her to feel uncomfortable." The next day, the assistant returned with the information. Her name is Kemi Adewale, 17 years old, lives with her mother's younger sister. Parents died in a car accident. She sells water and groundnuts after school to support the household. Chief Lawson listened without interrupting. "Does she know anything about me?" "No, sir. She probably doesn't even know who you are." A small smile appeared on the old man's face. "Perfect." 2 days later, Kemi was back at Ojuelegba bus stop, weaving through traffic with her tray of groundnuts and sachet water. It was one of the hottest afternoons of the month. Sweat trickled down her back as she handed water to a tired passenger in a bus. Suddenly, a neatly dressed man in his early 30s approached her. "Are you Kemi Adewale?" She looked at him, surprised. "Yes, why?" He handed her an envelope. "Chief Adewale Lawson would like to meet you. This is an invitation. A car will come for you on Saturday morning." Kemi froze. She had never received such a formal invitation before. "Are you sure it's me you're looking for?" The man smiled. "There's no mistake. Please be ready by 9 a.m. She watched him walk away, her heart beating fast. That night, she showed the envelope to her aunt. "This could be trouble," Auntie Bisi said, frowning. "Rich people don't just invite strangers to their houses." "But what if it's for something good?" Kemi asked quietly. Her aunt sighed. "I'll let you go, but be careful. Don't accept anything you don't understand." Saturday came quickly. A shiny black SUV pulled up in front of their house exactly at 9 a.m. The driver stepped out and opened the back door for her. As the car drove out of Mushin and into the wide, clean roads of Ikoyi, Kemi pressed her face to the window, staring at the tall buildings and beautiful houses. She felt like she had entered another world entirely. When they stopped in front of a massive white mansion with tall gates and manicured gardens, Kemi's mouth fell open. She had never seen such a place in her life. Inside, an old man in a crisp white agbada was waiting for her, smiling as if he had been expecting her for years. The security guard at the gate greeted the driver and waved them in. The black SUV rolled along a smooth driveway, lined with flowers until it stopped in front of the main entrance. Kemi stepped out slowly, her eyes wide as she looked at the tall pillars, polished marble steps, and glass doors. Two men in suits stood by the entrance, their expressions serious. "This way, miss," one of them said politely, leading her inside. The air in the mansion was cool and smelled faintly of lavender. Expensive paintings hung on the walls, and the floor was so shiny she could see her reflection. Kemi walked carefully, afraid she might step on something she shouldn't. They led her into a large sitting room, where an elderly man in a crisp white agbada sat in a comfortable armchair. His face was calm, and his eyes were warm. "Kemi," he said with a smile, "welcome to my home." She bowed slightly, unsure of the right thing to do. "Good morning, sir. Please sit." He pointed to a soft chair opposite him. A maid appeared with a tray of juice and biscuits, placing them on the table between them. Kemi sat, her hands folded on her lap. "Sir, I don't understand why I'm here." The old man chuckled softly. "I'm sure you don't." "My name is Chief Adewale Lawson." Kemi froze. The name sounded familiar. She had seen it on billboards and in newspapers. The Lawson Foundation, the Lawson Shipping Company, Lawson Estates. "You may not remember me," Chief Lawson continued, "but I remember you very well." Kemi looked confused. "Sir, have we met before?" He leaned forward slightly. "Yes, a few weeks ago, at Ojuelegba bus stop. You gave me your money so I could pay my bus fare." Kemi's eyes widened. "That was you." Yes, I was dressed simply that day. I wanted to see Lagos the way ordinary people live it. I didn't tell anyone who I was, but your kindness, it touched me deeply. Kemi's cheeks grew warm. It was nothing, sir. I just didn't want you to be stranded. Chief Lawson shook his head. It was not nothing. In my world, people often give only when they expect something back. But you gave even though you had little. He sat back, his eyes thoughtful. That day I was losing faith in people. Your kindness reminded me of something I had forgotten. That one small act can make a big difference. It made me decide to restart a project I had almost abandoned. Kemi tilted her head. What project, sir? You'll find out soon, he said with a small smile. But first I wanted to meet you properly. I have plans for you, Kemi. Plans that will change your life and the lives of many others. Kemi's heart raced. She didn't know what he meant, but she could feel that this meeting was only the beginning of something big. Kemi sat quietly, her hands wrapped around the glass of juice, waiting for Chief Lawson to speak again. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner filled the silence. The old man leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. Kemi, I own a company called Lawson Water Systems. Years ago, we began a project to provide clean drinking water to poor communities across Nigeria. But the project faced problems: corruption, delays, and people who only cared about profit. I almost gave up. He paused and looked directly at her. But after that day at Ojuelegba, I realized something. If a girl who sells water on the street could give away her last coins to a stranger, then I had no excuse to abandon something that could save millions of lives. Kemi blinked, her mind trying to take in his words. You mean, my small help made you start again? Yes, Chief Lawson said with a smile. Sometimes God uses the smallest voices to wake us up. I restarted the project 2 weeks ago. We're building new water treatment plants, drilling boreholes, and setting up distribution points in rural and urban communities. Kemi's lips parted in surprise. That's amazing, sir. I want you to be part of it, he continued, not just as a beneficiary, but as an ambassador. You will speak at our events, telling people why clean water matters. And I will make sure you never have to sell in the sun again. Kemi's heart pounded. Ambassador? But sir, I've never spoken in front of a crowd. He chuckled. You will learn. You have something more powerful than a trained voice. You have a true story. The maid returned with a folder, placing it on the table. Chief Lawson slid it toward Kemi. Inside was a scholarship letter with her name written in bold. This will cover your school fees, books, and uniforms until you finish university, he said. Your aunt will also get a new apartment in a safer area. You deserve to focus on your future without worrying about what to eat. Kemi felt her throat tighten. Sir, I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. Chief Lawson smiled warmly. Live your life with the same kindness you showed me. That is thanks enough. For the next hour, he told her about the plans for the Lawson Water Project. How the new treatment plant in Lagos would provide safe drinking water for over 1 million people. How each borehole could save children from waterborne diseases. How he planned to create jobs through the project. As she listened, Kemi realized something. Her small act at the bus stop had become a seed that would grow into something far bigger than herself. When it was time to leave, Chief Lawson shook her hand firmly. Kemi Adewale, you are about to touch more lives than you can ever count. That night, lying in her bed in Mushin, Kemi stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Her life had changed in just one meeting, and she had a feeling it was only the beginning. The following week, Mushin buzzed with excitement. Neighbors gathered outside Auntie Bisi's house, pointing at the large moving truck parked in front. 2 men carried boxes into the back, while another man carefully lifted a sewing machine out of the small room. Ah, Bisi, where are you people going? A woman from across the street asked. To a better place, Auntie Bisi said with a proud smile. God has remembered us. Kemi stood nearby, still in disbelief. The new apartment in Surelaire was spacious compared to the cramped single room they had lived in for years. There was running water, electricity that worked most of the time, and enough space for Kemi to have her own corner to study. The day after the move, Chief Lawson's driver picked her up and took her to the Lawson Foundation headquarters in Victoria Island. The building was tall, with shining glass windows that reflected the Lagos skyline. Inside, she was welcomed by a team of smiling staff. They gave her a tour: offices, meeting rooms, a media studio, and a large conference hall. On the wall, huge photographs showed boreholes being drilled and children drinking clean water from taps. "This is where you'll work with us on the water project," said Mrs. Okafor, the project coordinator. "Your job will be to share your story, visit communities, and encourage people to join the cause." Kemi felt nervous. "But I've never spoken in public before." "That's why we'll train you," Mrs. Okafor said reassuringly. Her first real test came 2 weeks later. The Lawson Foundation was launching a clean water facility in Ojuelegba, and Kemi was scheduled to give a short speech. The event had drawn journalists, local leaders, and hundreds of residents. Standing backstage, she could hear the sound of the crowd and the clicking of cameras. Her hands felt cold and her heart raced. Chief Lawson walked up to her. "Kemi," he said gently, "remember, you are not here to impress anyone. You are here to tell the truth about why clean water matters. Just speak from your heart." When her name was announced, she stepped up to the podium. At first, her voice shook. "Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kemi Adewale." She told them about growing up without easy access to clean water, about how she sold sachet water on the streets to survive, and about the day she gave her last coins to a stranger who turned out to be Chief Lawson. The crowd listened quietly. Some people nodded, others wiped their eyes. By the time she finished, they applauded loudly. Cameras flashed as she stepped away from the microphone. After the event, several journalists approached her for interviews. One of them said, "Your story will inspire many young people. Can we feature you in our Sunday edition?" Chief Lawson, standing nearby, smiled with pride. "This is just the beginning, Kemi." That night, social media was filled with pictures and videos of the young girl who had gone from street seller to ambassador of a national project. Messages poured in from strangers, thanking her for her courage. Kemi realized she was no longer just surviving. She was making a difference. Months passed, and the Lawson Water Project grew faster than anyone had imagined. Boreholes were drilled in rural villages where children used to walk for hours just to fetch water from dirty streams. Water tanks rose in city slums, and treatment plants began purifying thousands of liters every day. Kemi's role as an ambassador took her to places she had never dreamed of visiting, from dusty villages in Ogun State to coastal fishing communities in Badagry. Everywhere she went, she spoke to crowds about clean water and how a single act of kindness could change lives. Her confidence grew with each speech. At first, she was shy, clutching her notes tightly. But soon she began speaking freely, looking into people's eyes and telling her story from the heart. She saw the way children leaned forward to listen, how mothers nodded with understanding, and how men clapped when she finished. One day she stood on a stage in a large hall in Abuja during the national launch of the Lawson Water Project. Ministers, governors, journalists, and international donors filled the room. Bright lights shone on her face as she approached the microphone. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice clear and strong. "I stand here today not because I am special, but because I made a choice to help someone when I had very little myself. I did not know that choice would touch millions of lives." She spoke about the children who now had clean water to drink, the mothers who no longer feared cholera outbreaks, and the communities that could now grow gardens and sell vegetables because they had water all year round. The hall erupted in applause when she finished. Chief Lawson, seated in the front row, clapped the loudest. After the event, the media swarmed her. A headline the next day read, "From bus stop to national hero, the beggar who saved a million lives." Television stations replayed her speech, and social media exploded with messages from people across Nigeria and beyond. Some offered scholarships, others wanted to volunteer for the project. One message stood out. It was from a teenage boy in Kano who wrote, "I used to think helping people didn't matter. Now I know even small help can change the world. Thank you, Kemi." Back in Lagos, Kemi visited Ojuelegba bus stop one afternoon, standing quietly in the same spot where she had once given her last coins to an old man. The noise and bustle were the same, but she was different now. Chief Lawson joined her, dressed in his simple shirt and cap. "Do you see this place, Kemi? This is where it all began." She smiled. "It feels like a lifetime ago." He nodded. "Remember this. It's not the amount you give, but the heart you give it with. That is what truly changes the world." As they stood there watching the buses come and go, Kemi felt a deep sense of purpose. She knew her journey was far from over. Her life had gone from a small act of kindness to saving 1 million lives. And she would keep going, one good deed at a time.